All right. It is Saturday morning. It is early, a little earlier than we typically go. My fault because I am flying out today, but it is 7 a.m. Eastern on Saturday morning. One of my favorite times of the week. It is time for Sales Logic. Hanging out here with my partner, Mark Hunter. Mark, we got a really good show today.
We do. And I got to introduce you, Meridith, Elliott, Powell. So it's always great to be Saturdays with you. Our show this morning, what's wrong with my pipeline? Okay, not just my pipeline, but everyone's pipeline. That's what we're going to be talking about. We got a great question. We got a great book, and we got a lightning round. Top 10 sales skills you need to find success in this current quarter. So let's dive into it. The topic, what's wrong with my pipeline? What do you think?
I got to tell you, I feel like we are catching a theme this summer. The theme in the last couple of months with the questions and things that we've been asked, and a lot has to do with the slowing sales cycle, the difficulty getting to decision makers, and trying to diagnose why we can't get things over, really over the finish line. So. My first thought when I think about pipeline, and I was just going over mine this morning, is like, have you set a goal on your pipeline? Do you know that in order to close X amount a month, what's got to be in your pipeline? I was running at a 3 times multiple with my pipeline. I just upped that to a 5 times multiple with the pipeline, because my team and I are really going back and trying to get more in the pipeline, because it's getting more and more difficult to get things to close.
I'm glad you just said 3x to 5x, because I always said top performers can have a 3x pipeline and make their number, and they can. However, we are not in normal markets right now. It is an abnormal situation, which means you have to increase it. And that means what you do is you increase, like you said, to 5x. Now, whether or not you have to go all the way to 5x, that's a determining factor you got to make, but you do have to increase. But here's the challenge. When you increase your pipeline, you increase your complexity, which means your follow-up process has to be so routine focused, because otherwise you will not be able to manage a 5x pipe, because you can barely manage a 3x pipe if you don't have a really solid, consistent follow-up process.
Yeah. I would also say that if your pipeline is stuck, Mark, you've heard Mark and I say this so many times, you really need to be honest about what's in your pipeline. Does it really belong in the pipeline? Do not do your pipeline for your sales manager. Do your pipeline for you. And this is why, because you are going to spend time and energy on what is in your pipeline. Do not spend time and energy on things in your pipeline if you really don't have a firm belief they are over 50% of chance they're going to close.
Oh, I love what you're saying there, because you know what I find is that so many salespeople have things in their pipeline to satisfy their manager's pipeline numbers. And so what they're doing is they're stuffing it with stuff so their manager can say, we've got a 3x, 4x, 5x, 6x, whatever it might be. And the challenge is, you said also, don't put it in there unless it's got a 50%. Now, that's a debatable
Sure.
That's a debatable number depending on who you are and the organization that you work for. What I find is this: if I have got whatever stages I have in my pipeline, if that deal is not moving in X number of weeks, in like 3 weeks, 3 weeks is the number I like to use. If it hasn't moved stages in 3 weeks, I got to really question as to why it's in there, because otherwise what it's doing is it's just plugging it up. And this is the challenge. I think so many salespeople have got stuff in their pipeline. They're just keeping it there, and it's wishful thinking that it's going to close, and as a result they're getting confused and they don't know where to go, and it just drives them crazy.
Yeah, and I also feel like they're confusing pipeline with CRM, and don't confuse your pipeline with your CRM. For example, Mark just said, you've got something in there and you really haven't had a conversation about, whether this is a deal or somebody hasn't responded in 3 weeks. It can go back into your CRM for follow-up, but does it belong in your pipeline? And those are completely CRM. I'm going to stay in touch with those people. I'm going to continue to send them valuable information, but I'm not at proposal stage. And it goes in my pipeline for me when it's in proposal stage.
Valuable definition, which you just described. And I love that, because we haven't really separated the two, because there is a big difference. Your CRM is is your customer relationship management system. And again, for many organizations, you, the salesperson, are actually running your marketing phase. So in other words, you got to have all that in there. Others, you don't. But here's the whole situation, and what you just said. The pipeline is the stuff that I'm actively managing right now. I'm sure you and I have got thousands of names in our CRM systems. But then you got to look at what is really in our pipeline. That's where we're focused. And I'm going to call this out to sales managers. Having a 30-minute review, I'm going to do coaching session with you when all you're doing is looking at their pipeline. That's not coaching. All you're doing is you're telling your salespeople, you know what? We should probably put more stuff in my pipeline because I got to make my boss happy. And that's not the way. So when you talk about what's wrong with my pipeline, it's because of all these hierarchical factors that are coming down on you. So let's come back to how do you fix your pipeline, and does the deal actually have merit? Does it have merit? Like you said, 50%. Otherwise, it shouldn't be in there.
Yeah. I'd also say don't be afraid of a weak pipeline. I mean, when you go through those steps that Mark and I just spoke about and you look down and you're like, oh my God, my pipeline is 2x. Like, don't be afraid of that. This is data. This is information. Now I know I really don't have enough viable in there. I don't have good deals in there. That tells me that I need to make more sales calls and I need to work harder to get more into my pipeline. So don't be afraid. Like, it's important to be honest and don't be afraid of weak results. And I'll just give you that. I mean, we're not moving enough across the finish line in my business right now. So I want to take it up to 5 times, up from 3 up to 5 times my pipeline. I don't have 5 times my number in my pipeline. I don't have a 5-time multiple. So what does that tell me? It tells me I have a lot of room to make double the sales calls to try to get more in my pipeline. Now, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything bad. I'm not a bad salesperson. The market is just weak around me. And so I've got to shift my strategy. So treat your pipeline like data and information that you can use, but you need good data and you need honest data so you can fix your pipeline.
If you don't have variances in your pipeline, you're lying to yourself, because your pipeline is a little bit like the weather. It's like traffic. There's going to be good days. There's going to be bad days. And you're right. It can get down to 2x. Okay, what do I need to do? I need to now break down the elements and say, what do I need to do to get more back into my pipeline? And that's exactly what I got to be doing. One of the big challenges, I think, with salespeople also is they play the assumption game. They just assume this deal is going to close. And you really got to be hard pressed to why should this deal be in my pipeline? Am I being true to that? Do I understand what the critical need is? Do I understand the timeline? Do they have budget? All of those pieces, whatever the criteria is that you assess. But you gotta be honest with yourself, because otherwise you're gonna fill it with stuff that doesn't belong. And that's gonna take cycles away from you where you should be spending it on deals that can close.
Yeah. Mark, what's the question today?
Oh, question day comes from Luka in Dubrovnik. He says, love the show. Thank you. We listen here in Croatia every week. My question is, what's wrong with my sales pipeline? That's what we're talking about. I'm qualifying, like you say, getting deals in the pipeline, but I cannot get them across the finish line. I either lose them at the end to a competitor or they just fall out. Say they are just not making a decision. Oh, the customer making no decision. Yeah, that happens a little bit in today's market. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah. So first of all, if you ever need us to come to Dubrovnik and work with your team, we would be there in just half a second. What I would say too, number one, I think you need to back up and figure out for each one why it's stuck. Like, are they not responding? Are they exploring other opportunities? Did they tell you that they've delayed decision? Like, what's going on with each? And you need a strategy around each one in your pipeline. Like, for example, I've got a proposal out that I really like to get across the finish line, and I'm like 85% sure it's going to. So they've asked for time. They have a lot of people that they need to get on in the decision. So my strategy for that is value add follow-up. I've invited them to a masterclass I'm doing. I sent an article related to the topic. I've commented some on some of their LinkedIn posts. So that was my strategy for that one. I had another one that was a hot lead that I couldn't get, after a couple of responses, I couldn't get anything going. So I turned it over to somebody else in my business because I thought, well, maybe another person could have contact, and she has had luck. So think through each one and figure out why they're stuck, and then apply a strategy to it.
Yeah, and you've really got to be honest with yourself, because again, you have to be honest. One of the questions that I love getting an answer to, and that is to know what your customers' KPIs are. Because in this difficult market that we're in, there are companies that are hesitant to make a decision, and there are individuals that are hesitant. And the reason I say this is because the individuals don't want to look stupid. They don't want to do something that's going to harm them, that's going to hurt them, that's going to put them at risk. And they also know that they have to make their KPIs. And many times what I find is the budget might be there, but the individual's KPIs might be aligned a little bit differently. Don't hesitate. As soon as you establish this level of trust, find out from your customer, what are their KPIs? What are their KPIs? And you can be straight up front and ask them. I've asked this question. I've been asking this question a lot lately, and it is really fascinating because I get some brutally honest answers. And now I can begin to really determine, okay, is this deal going to close? Is it not going to close? What do I need to change? What do I need to do?
Yeah, what do you need to do to really get that? The other is, something you can do if a deal is really stuck, if you're losing from a competitor, figure out why. Like what did, and you can really call somebody back and you can basically say, look, I know you've decided to go with Mark. You've made a great decision. No, if you're ever not happy, I'm here. I'm happy to whatever. But we're kind of trying to do some due diligence, and we'd love to know why we're losing the deal, why we lost it, if there's anything we could have done differently. A lot of times you'll get some really good intel from that.
Oh, and you know what? This is what's so funny, because so many salespeople are scared to do that.
Yeah.
When they find the deal's gone to a competitor, they automatically check out. No, stay in the game. You've done the work to create a relationship. Stay in the game and nurture that. Find out from that, because again, something may fall apart, and you're going to be able to come right back in and have an opportunity. And if they don't make a decision, this is so key. Don't take your foot off the gas. You may give them a little bit of slack initially, but you've got to stay in the game, because why did they not make a decision? It could be the marketplace hasn't evolved enough, or maybe it's evolved too far. They may not have budget, or maybe you just did not state enough value for them to warrant the investment. Any of those ways, you've got to stay in the game. Follow-up is so critical in today's marketplace.
Yeah, and I would say that too, I wonder if speaking with what Mark is talking about, I wonder with what's in your pipeline. I just shot a video about that this week and put it on LinkedIn about the fact that once you do the proposal, the sale is not over. The sale has really just begun. And you've got to get that proposal across the finish line. Don't assume that all you're doing once the proposal is written is following up and asking if they've made a decision. You're following up in ways that add value to that proposal. Hey, I was thinking, I know this isn't part of the proposal, but here's some things that we're working on. I wanted to share a case study that I've got from another client, kind of really aligns with some of your challenges and some of your opportunities. We just developed this. It's new and innovative. It wasn't available at the time that the proposal was written. Wanted you to know we've got this. I've got another idea, whatever it is, but keep adding to it.
You've got to keep adding to that at a very rapid pace, because here's what I found. It is amazing how timelines change, especially in today's marketplace. They may have an itch. They may have a need to solve this today. But if you allow this whole proposal phase and everything to drag out too long, things change. You could lose that deal. So when you get that proposal across the table, or you're getting it there, you've got to keep urgency in terms of getting a decision. Don't allow, we need to stop and we need to think about this. We need to assess this for a couple of weeks. Hold it. You got to create some motion, some activity that has them saying, we need to evaluate this now, because waiting a couple of weeks could be the kiss of death on not getting the deal for you.
Yeah. And I think something you need to go back and really think about is, did you sell a product, or are you selling a return on investment? And if things are not moving through your pipeline, chances are you're selling products and services. You're not selling the return on it, the return on investment. I mean, people, Mark talked about knowing their customers' KPIs, but also know what their KPIs are. Like, be able to say, we do this deal, this is what you can expect in this amount of time. Like, give them a reason where you're taking all the risk out of it. Right now in today's marketplace, people are risk adverse, and you've got to reduce the risk. And by reducing the risk, this is what you get, and this is the guarantee.
And that TCO analysis, total cost of ownership, has to have a timeline established to it. In other words, when are they going to get it? Now I'm going to add another letter to that. That's the TBO, the total benefit of ownership. What's the benefit of ownership? And many times that transcends down to your customer's customer. And so you got to stop and because again, you have to ask yourself, is the customer looking at value the same way I am? No, they never are. And the problem is we're going in with our value prop. Our value prop doesn't matter at all. It's the customer's value prop. That's where you have to get to. And if you can't get to that, so I'm gonna go right back to our question, Luca. I have a feeling you're probably losing deals because you got too much of your own value prop in there versus the customer's value prop. And that comes back to the discovery phase. Are you spending enough time in the discovery phase to truly understand the needs of the customer?
Yeah. And I think, Luca, for me, I think the biggest thing is I think that there's BS in your pipeline. I mean, when salespeople, to me, can't get things across the finish line, more often than not, it is because what is in their pipeline is not true to be in their pipeline. And as I said, I said it before, don't be afraid of a weak pipeline. It's good information to go, okay, now I need to do some work to strengthen this pipeline.
Oh, we put so many things in our pipeline based on assumptions. Not only do we keep them in on assumptions, but the size of them, because isn't it amazing how when we assume a deal is going to close, we always assume it's going to close at the highest amount possible, whatever the biggest opportunity is. And you're right. Then we absolutely fall down. Andy Greenberg, great to hear from you. The outcome of ownership drives success. You're right. It's the owner. It's there. It's not us, but we got to get into their world in order to find out.
Yeah, I agreed. I also think that, Mark just made a great point there. Let's assume that something is stalled in that pipeline. You can't quite get them across the finish line. Is there a mini close that you could use? Is there something you could go back and say, look, I know you're wrestling with a lot. There's a lot of decision makers involved in this. I had an idea. Your immediate need is this. We could put together a small program based on this and blah, blah, blah. So, be able to figure out, because if you can get them to do one commitment, the chances that you're going to get the bigger commitment increase exponentially.
And that's especially true in today's marketplace because the market is, people are just in. And also the individual says, wait a minute, if I make this big decision and it doesn't go right, I'm going to look back. But I can make a smaller decision. It's well within my funding, well within my budget. I can do it. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, okay, it's okay. So right, it does make it a whole lot easier. Now, here's the whole thing though. If you're going in with a lower priced option, make sure you don't give away the farm because it's so easy, especially those of you who are out there selling services, that you can come out with a lower option, but then you get project creep. And you wind up putting all this stuff back into it. So you got to be careful on that because again, what you're doing is you have to maintain your price value relationship with whatever it is that you sold them. It has to equal, because otherwise what you've done is you've discounted all future opportunities you have with that customer. Big trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. You've also sacrificed what you can with integrity sell to other clients, right?
Oh yeah. And you've cheapened yourself. So you've actually damaged your own personal confidence. Okay. Hey, you ready for the book?
I am.
Oh, wow. The Challenger Customer. Perfect book for this week.
Yeah, isn't it?
From our friends, Brent Adamson and Matt Dixon. So the Challenger Customer, what are your thoughts? I got some thoughts on it.
Well, I think the challenger customer, it was a great outcome of the challenger sale, and really gives you good insights and mindset into the mind of the customer and what's going on there.
I do. I love it because it does break it down into individual elements. Now, I admit, and I've shared this with Brent and I've shared this with Matt. Okay, the Challenger customer, the sequel wasn't quite as good as the original sale, the Challenger sale. So I'm going to tell anybody, if you're going to read the Challenger customer, make sure you read the Challenger sale also. But hey, both Brent and Matt have gone on to write other books, and they're absolutely exceptional. Two great individuals. You ready for? Oh, and by the way, Brent Adamson used to live in Omaha. Did you know that? That's just a little bit of trivia. So anyway.
Oh yeah, for anybody who didn't know, Mark used to live in Omaha. That's why that matters.
Yeah,
that's why that matters to him.
And not that it matters to anybody, but everybody's past somehow connects to Nebraska. Anyway, okay, lightning round. You ready?
All right. Yeah, I am.
Top 10 sales skills you need to succeed in second quarter.
Number one, listening. You got to listen at a whole nother level.
Number two, discipline with your time.
Yeah. Number three, business acumen. You got to get really good at business skills.
Number four, focus on your customer's customer.
Number five, critical thinking skills. You got to be able to problem solve and think through problems.
Ooh, I'm going to run with that and build on it. A level of curiosity that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I think you got to be a master networker and relationship builder.
Ooh, number 7 or 8, I don't know what it is. Sense of urgency. You've got to be urgent in today's marketplace.
Yeah, I'll just say number 9 because I don't know where we are. You got to get good at AI and technology. You got to be using those skills in order to allow you to be more customer facing.
And number 10, it's those small habits that you do daily. It's just having that routine. You got to stay in the game every day. Great list, great show. Hey, we got some stuff that we are working on, right? That we're going to be teasing the audience with.
Yeah, it's coming out in June, and you really want to stay tuned. In fact, we'll devote an entire show to it. But really, a cool next phase for the Sales Logic podcast and the Sales Logic community. We'll announce the date next week that we're going to be revealing this information, and you're going to want to stay tuned.
Love it. Hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Leave us a review, please, whether it be Spotify, Apple, whatever. Leave us a review. They're great. Because, hey, if we've helped you earn a single dollar, consider telling a friend about our show, because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
All right. We'll see you right back here next week. Until then, go clean your pipeline up and close a deal.